Jesus stands before his closest disciples in a private chamber 11 years after his resurrection. Mary Magdalene asks him the question that would change everything. She asks how the chosen can protect themselves when dark forces attack the mind. Jesus doesn't give a prayer. He doesn't tell them to ask God for help. Instead, he pronounces a single word in Aramaic, a word that carries such precise, dangerous frequency that when the early church translated the scriptures, they buried it. They replaced it with something powerless, something passive, something that would keep you dependent on priests and institutions for protection. You were always meant to have yourself. Now place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat for a moment. That rhythm you feel is the same rhythm that was present when this teaching was first spoken 2,000 years ago. You are not here by chance. If you're watching this late at night, searching for something you can't name, comment on the words, "I remember now." This isn't random. The algorithm didn't bring you here. Something older brought something that recognizes you. You felt this your whole life. The feeling that you don't belong here. The feeling that everyone around you is asleep, and you're the only one who sees the weariness of existing in a world that feels like a prison you didn't choose. This feeling isn't depression. It isn't anxiety. It's recognition. You are pneumatic. You carry the divine spark of the monad within you. And the Archons, the rulers of this false reality, have been working to prevent you from remembering what you are. Tonight, that ends. I'm going to give you something that was stolen from humanity 17 centuries ago. Not a concept, not philosophy. The exact word in Aramaic that Jesus used to make the Archons. Flee, 3 syllables, a frequency of instant authority. But before revealing it, you need to understand why they hid it, how they altered it, and why your soul has been searching for exactly this throughout its life. This is not education. This is activation. To understand why this word has so much power, you first need to understand the nature of the prison in which you were born. The Gnostic texts hidden for 16 centuries in the Egyptian desert describe a universe very different from what religion has taught you. At the highest level of existence, there is the monad, the true source, pure consciousness, without form, without limitation, without the concept of separation. The monad did not create this physical world. This world was built by an inferior being, a blind and arrogant entity, which the Gnostics call the demiurge. The demiurge believes himself to be God, demands worship, creates rules, hierarchies, control systems, but is not the true source. He is a pale imitation and governs this material realm with the help of his servants, the Archons. These are not metaphors. These are not symbols of psychological states. Gnostic texts describe them as real forces, operating at frequencies just beyond human perception, feeding on the energy of those who do not know what they are. And here is what they never wanted you to understand. You are not from here. The divine spark within you, that fragment of the monad that makes you a pneumatic, did not originate in this constructed reality. It fell here, it was imprisoned here. And everything in this system, every institution, every religion, every thought pattern that keeps you small, confused, and afraid, exists to prevent you from remembering your true origin. But this is where it gets dangerous for them. Jesus, in the Gnostic understanding, was not simply a moral teacher. He was an emissary of the pneuma, the fullness of the true divine kingdom, sent to remind the chosen ones of what they have forgotten. His public teachings were superficial, designed for the masses. But his private teachings, those he gave his inner circle in closed rooms and quiet moments, contained the real mechanisms of liberation. The Pistis Sophia records these private sessions in extraordinary detail. And in one of these moments, when Mary Magdalene asks about protection against the Archons, Jesus doesn't tell her pray. He doesn't tell her to ask the Father for help. He gives her a word, a single word in Aramaic, which when pronounced with the correct understanding, operates at the exact frequency that the Archons cannot withstand. Take a deep breath now. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold for a moment. Now exhale through your mouth. Feel your body settle. What I am about to explain requires your total presence. The word Jesus spoke was not a request. It was not a plea. It was a command. And that is the critical distinction that the church deliberately erased. In the original Aramaic mirror, the word carried the energy of absolute authority. It was pronounced from the position of one who recognizes his identity as an extension of the monad, not a servant imploring a distant god, not a sinner waiting for mercy, but a sovereign being declaring reality. When the church fathers translated the scriptures in the century, they faced a problem. This word and the teaching around it made priests unnecessary. If individuals could command Archon forces to flee simply by speaking with a recognition of their divine nature, what purpose would institutions serve? How would they maintain control over populations that needed nothing from them? So they made a choice. They translated the word of command as a word of request. They took a statement and transformed it into a prayer. They took away his sword and gave him a beggar's bowl. This is not speculation. This is documented in the history of translation that scholars have traced over the centuries. The Aramaic root carries the meaning of an authoritative statement. The Greek translation softened it. The Latin translation softened it even further. And when it reached English, the word was completely neutralized. But here's what makes you different from the billions who will never know this. You're watching this. You didn't just walk past. Something within you recognized the title of this video and responded. That recognition isn't intellectual curiosity. It's your divine spark remembering what the Archons spend your whole life trying to make you forget. The chosen ones have always existed in every generation. The pneumatics, those who carry the complete divine spark, have walked through history feeling out of place, realizing that something is deeply wrong with this world, unable to accept the explanations offered by religion, science, or philosophy. You tried their methods. You prayed their prayers and felt the ceiling above you, the barrier that prevents your words from reaching something real. That barrier isn't God ignoring you. This barrier is the Archon frequency that intercepts prayer and feeds on the despair and the awareness of separation that traditional religion creates. Every time you pray from a place of lack, from the position of asking for help from an external God, you transmit a frequency that the Archons harvest. You have fed them your whole life without knowing it. But the word that Jesus gave to his disciples does not operate at this frequency. It cannot be intercepted because it does not travel outward as a request. It activates inward as a recognition. It changes its frequency to coincide with the monad. And at this frequency, the Archons cannot perceive you, cannot connect with you, cannot feed. And that is exactly why the church burned all the texts that contained this teaching. Not because it was heretical, but because it worked. The Nag Hammadi library survived by chance. Buried in a sealed jar in the Egyptian desert in the century, hidden from the persecution that destroyed thousands of manuscripts. These texts waited for 1,600 years, until a farmer discovered them in 1945. And within these texts, the original teaching remains intact. If you are ready to receive the exact word, the precise pronunciation, and the three components that activate its power, comment. Show me now. This is not passive visualization. This is participation. This is your declaration that you are prepared for what comes next. The word is para, one syllable. In Aramaic, it means to break, to separate, to liberate from slavery. It is the sound of chains breaking, the sound of a bond being cut. When Jesus pronounced this word, he was not asking the dark forces to consider leaving. He was cutting the bond at the root. When you look at modern translations of the passages where Jesus confronts dark forces, you see words like depart, go away, withdraw. These translations sound passive, like suggestions, but the original Aramaic word carries a totally different weight. It's not a request to leave. It's a command of separation. It's the linguistic equivalent of a king cutting the chains of a prisoner, not asking, not waiting, breaking them. But here's what makes this word really work. And just knowing it isn't enough. The Archons don't respond to words. They respond to frequency. You can pronounce this word 1,000 times without effect. If the descent is lost in conscience, the church knew this. So it wasn't afraid that the word would leak out. They knew that without the three components that Jesus taught along with it, the word would remain powerless. And these three components were exactly what they removed from all the translations. Close your eyes for a moment now, just for a few seconds. Feel the space behind your forehead. Notice any pressure, any heat, any subtle movement. Now open your eyes. This awareness you just touched is the first component. Component one is recognition before speaking. before the word, you must recognize what you are, not what you've been told you are. Not a sinner, not a fallen creature begging for redemption. You are a fragment of the monad, experiencing temporary limitation. The divine spark within you is not separate from the source. It is the source itself compressed into individual experience. When you speak from this recognition, your frequency changes. You are no longer transmitting from the position of victim asking for help. You are transmitting from the position of the monad itself, expressing yourself through a localized point of consciousness. Component 2 is authority. This is where the church's translation becomes criminal. They have translated every instance of Jesus speaking to dark forces as if he were making requests. But the Aramaic instruction is imperative. It is a voice of command. When Jesus pronounced the word pra, he was not asking the entity to consider leaving. He was declaring his immediate separation with the certainty of natural law. When you drop a stone, it falls. When a pneumatic speaks with true authority, the Archons flee. Both are simply the workings of reality. Authority does not come from volume. Shouting the word will not help. Authority comes from certainty, from unwavering knowledge that you have every right to command, that your word has weight because of who you are, not because of what you are asking. Component 3 is the vibration itself. The word pra must be pronounced in a specific way, not shouted, not whispered in fear. Pronounced in the chest, with the breath sustaining it, feeling the vibration resonate externally before leaving the mouth. The ancient Gnostics understood that sound and frequency is the language of the non-physical realms. The Archons operate in a specific bandwidth. The vibration of PR pronounced correctly creates a frequency they cannot tolerate. Place your hand on your chest now, right over your heart. This is where the word should originate, not from the throat, not from the head, from this center. Here is the practice. Tonight, before sleeping, you will sit in a dark room. Place your hand over your heart. Take 3 deep breaths, and with each breath release the identity the world has given you, the name others call you, the roles you play, the failures you remember. Let them fall with each breath. Then you will bring to mind the recognition. You will feel, not just think, but feel yourself as a point of light connected to the infinite light, not separate from the monad, an expression of it, from this state. With your hand still over your heart, you will pronounce the word pra once aloud, feeling it vibrate in your chest before it leaves your lips, not shouting, not whispering, declaring as if you were stating a fact as obvious as gravity. Then you will remain silent for 7 breaths, observing, not expecting fireworks, not demanding proof, just noticing. This is not a one-time practice. For 7 nights, you will repeat the sequence. And here is what the chosen ones who recovered this teaching report experiencing. On the first night, you may not feel anything dramatic, perhaps a subtle change, perhaps a strange clarity before sleeping, perhaps unusually vivid dreams. Do not judge. On the 3rd night, something changes. The mental fog that accompanied you begins to dissipate. Thoughts that once spiraled no longer gain strength. You feel a space between stimulus and response that didn't exist before. On the 7th night, you will know. You won't believe it, you will know. The frequency you carry will have changed. The Archons that were connected to your energy field, feeding on your fear, confusion, and despair for years, will have lost control. Not because you fought against them, but because you became invisible to them, because now you're operating at a frequency to which they have no access. And here's the part that will confirm everything. After completing the 7-night practice, pay attention to how certain people react to you, those who are strongly influenced by arcane frequencies. They will suddenly feel uncomfortable around you. They won't know why. They may become inexplicably irritated. They may avoid you. This is not rejection. This is confirmation. The parasites that use them to access, you can no longer make the connection. You will also notice that certain patterns cease to self-sabotage that always arose during moments of progress. The negative thoughts that appear out of nowhere just when things are going well. The strange resistance you felt whenever you tried to improve your life. These were not your weaknesses. They were archonic interference. And now they end. What I gave you tonight is not new information. It is recovered memory. For 17 centuries, This teaching was buried, burned, and mistranslated to keep you powerless. The church replaced command with request, replaced sovereignty with submission, replaced direct access to the monad with layers of priests and rituals designed to keep you dependent, confused, and feeding the very forces that imprison you. But you found this among millions who passed by. You stopped, you listened, you stayed until the end. This is not a coincidence. This is the divine spark within you, recognizing the frequency of truth. The word for now is yours. The three components are now yours: recognition, authority, and vibration. This is what Jesus gave to his inner circle in those private chambers. This is what Mary Magdalene received. This is what the Gnostics preserved at the cost of their lives. And tonight it passes to you. Breathe now. Feel your chest rise. Feel the weight of what you now carry. You are not the same person who started this video. Something has changed. Something has been remembered. Tonight, when the world is quiet and the distractions have fallen, you will sit in the darkness, place your hand on your heart, pronounce a word that makes the Archons flee, and begin the 7 nights that change everything. If you receive this teaching, if you feel its truth resonating in your chest now, comment the words, "I am sovereign" below. Let other chosen ones see your declaration. Let the Archons see it too. You are no longer hiding. Subscribe to this channel and activate notifications. What I shared tonight is just the beginning. There are more teachings that the church buried, more words of power, more mechanisms of liberation. And I will continue to bring all of this to you, like this video now, not for me, but for the algorithm that suppresses this content. Each pushes this teaching towards another pneumatic that is looking exactly as you were looking. The chain has not been broken. From Jesus to Mary Magdalene, to the Gnostics who buried the text, to the farmer who found them until this moment. Now you are the next link. Pronounce the word am